Hello, Thrivers. Today, I want to talk about what's involved with shifting from the narcissistic family role that you were forced to be in and shifting from that and into authenticity. So, let's talk about shifting from the mold that you're forced to be in into authenticity. That's the real healing. Sometimes we can get caught up in, I'm going to leave the relationship and my life is going to be amazing. Now, eventually it will be, but it's not enough to just leave and transport yourself from one place to another. What the narcissist did in molding you has shaped a lot of your personality, and it has created coping skills that have intertwined with your personality, but they're not really part of your authentic self. Those coping skills are characteristics that you might be stuck in and engaging in, but they are not you. However, just taking you and putting yourself in another place out of all toxic relationships, while that's important, because it's like taking a plant that's in soil that isn't conducive to helping it to grow and replanting it, that is part of the process of helping that plant to get healthy. But then it's about nurturing that plant and giving it what it needs to continue to grow. And that's the same thing with us. We need to transplant ourselves into healthy soil, right? But we also have to work through the characteristics that were kind of conditioned and trained to be a part of us, so that we can be that authentic self. So that being said, let's kind of dissect it a little bit. So the most common role or mold that people get into that watch my channel is the scapegoat role, right? When you're the scapegoat and you are forced to be the scapegoat, then everything is your fault. You are not allowed to have any opinions, right? You have to adopt the worldview and the mindset of the toxic person, the narcissist. Your needs don't matter. Everyone else's does. You're trained and conditioned to put the narcissist and everyone else's needs in the family, and yours are down here if they're even on the list of priorities. You are conditioned and trained to not trust yourself, because anytime that you bring your perspective to the table, it's met with emotional pain or abuse. And so your mind or your brain starts to see that trusting me is dangerous. Trusting me hurts. And so it stops looking inward and it uses all of its focus as to what to do and how to be on gaining that from how the narcissist tells you to be. It's almost like they program you, right? Instead of what do I want to do, it's what does he or she want me to do? Instead of what makes me happy, the thoughts are, what makes that person happy? What do I have to do to try to make them happy? And your connection to self disintegrates. If this is resonating with you, then let's talk about some things that can help you to start getting you back. Now, it was one of the first things that I wrote when I was on my recovery. In fact, you can get it for free right here, but it was one of the very first things that I wrote during the first 3 months of my healing journey. And it was a PDF entitled, I Miss Me and I Want Me Back. Now, some people feel like they never had a me. They were never allowed to be themselves in childhood. So there's this huge lack of self-identity when it comes to narcissistic abuse or healing from narcissistic abuse. In fact, you know the identity so well that they want you to be in. You probably have that outlined. You know exactly what to do, what to say, what not to do, what not to say, to stay in their good grace, so to speak. But when it comes to you, there's this huge lack of knowing yourself. So in order to break out of that mold, it's almost like you have to get to know yourself for the first time. Now, how do you do that? I'm not going to lie. It is a little bit challenging because of the layer of trauma. Okay, so in other words, there's so much information on how to get to know yourself all over the place, online, in books. However, if it doesn't take into account the layer of trauma, the information can be good, but it's like you can't put it into practice. It doesn't work on people that have gone through trauma. And it's only because there's a layer of trauma that has to be addressed as you're learning how to be yourself. Okay, so for example, part of learning how to be authentic and how to break out of that mold of being what the narcissist wants you to be is starting to listen and trust yourself. Now, that sounds so easy, right? That's so basic. But the layer of trauma but what you have to understand when there's a layer of trauma is that as you start to do this, it doesn't feel good. Your nervous system kicks on, sending you hormones that make you feel like you should not be doing this. It makes you feel like you're doing something wrong. It kicks on your fight or flight when you're actually trying to listen and trust yourself. And when that happens, your thoughts kick on. All the thoughts that are designed to put you back into that role. And the thoughts basically are the internalized voice of the narcissist that cause you to be in that mold in the first place. So you start to try to listen to yourself and your thoughts become something like, how can I trust myself? This is wrong. I don't know what I'm doing. What if I make a mistake? What if I'm wrong? How do I know this is the right way? Something bad is going to happen. If I trust myself, something bad is going to happen. I'm going to fail. All those thoughts kick on. So here I'm putting into practice, right? It says to listen and trust myself. But when I do, if you've been through trauma, your nervous system kicks on. So part of being able to reconnect with your authentic self is to recognize that that's normal. If you've been through trauma, that's going to happen. You don't want to give up because it gets uncomfortable. We tend to think that healing should feel so good. And because it feels good, it motivates us to keep going. Well, it will get like that. But in the beginning, it's more like having to undergo an operation. Let's say your life is on the line and you need an operation, right? Going through that operation doesn't feel good. In fact, there's a recuperation period where you still feel some of the pain. It doesn't feel good. However, after that recuperation period, you get your life back. Your life is no longer in danger and you're able to go back to living your best life. Well, healing from narcissistic abuse is like that in the beginning. It's almost like you're going through an emotional and psychological operation because you are cutting out the thought patterns that the narcissist put in you, the conditioned responses that are kept alive in your emotional triggers. You're learning to cut those out. You are rewiring neural pathways. You are upgrading your belief system. And while you're in that process in the beginning, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good because you're operating outside of the limits that the narcissist trained you to stay in. So your brain is kicking on all of your survival because it thinks that you're in danger. Okay, so it doesn't feel good in the beginning. But if you don't give up, and if you continue to strengthen those new ways of connecting with self, and you continue to strengthen your neural pathways, your beliefs, your connection to self, that's when your life gets to be exactly what you want it to be. Some people, a percentage of people, quit before they get to that place. And they get sucked back because of their protective self trying to keep them from what it deems to be as danger. And when that happens, it's almost like you're back at square one. And healing can be all about this sabotage, right? I'm starting to break free. I'm starting to be me, but then I'm sucked back. I'm starting to break free, but then I'm around other narcissists that suck me back. And it's this 2 steps forward, 3 steps back movement that happens. But if you don't give up, that's when you break out of that mold. It's not easy. So if anyone has done that two step forward, one step back pattern. Know that we've all done it. I did it too. Okay. That's in the beginning. That's what it's like. But if you don't give up and you really are committed to you, then you can get to that place of authenticity. And that's what life is all about. You being allowed to be you, not having someone dictate who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to feel, how you're supposed to think.